Have you ever experienced a betrayal that completely turned your life upside down? Imagine finding out your wife is on a dating app, not from her, but through a friend. What would you do? So, I took matters into my own hands. I did not yell. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I became creative. I altered her voicemail to deliver a message that everyone who calls her will hear. Do you want to know what I said? Stay tuned for a wild ride. My acquaintance discovered my wife using a dating app. I exposed her through her voicemail. You all need to be careful out here. Chris Brown correctly stated, "These girls aren't loyal anymore. They're just out here shattering hearts and doing whatever they want without feeling shame." My head is spinning. I feel like I've been hit by a truck, and it's all because of this girl I plan to propose to. This is crazy. I don't know who to talk to, so I'm sitting on my couch, staring at my phone as if it'll answer all my questions. Just rewind a little. I met Jade, and that's her actual name. I'm almost tempted to include her last name so that everyone knows who they're dealing with if they ever meet her. We met roughly 2.5 years ago through a dating app. I won't lie, I was very much into the dating scene then. I had this little formula down pat. I wasn't out here trying to be a playboy, but I knew how to use those dating apps. I had a strategy for swiping, matching, and talking to the correct folks who appeared legitimate. Once I saw the terms on your profile, I knew who was a hoe and who wasn't. You could call me a professional, but that is all in the past. Anyway, I matched with Jade and we immediately clicked. She appeared calm, humorous, and sweet. She simply hit differently than the other girls I was chatting with. Jade was relaxed, but she had an energy that drew me in. She was more than just her appearance. She had a sound mind. I believed I'd found someone special. Fast forward, we begin dating seriously. I was just searching for a fling, you know. I was not seeking something long-term, which is precisely what occurred. One minute, you're simply hanging with someone, and the next, you're spending hours on the phone with them as if you've known them for years. And in my situation, you're choosing furniture. We moved in together about a year ago and received the excellent apartment she chose. She adored it. In fact, she secured it before I could say anything. I didn't really care. After all, a happy female has a happy life, correct? That is what they say. So, I paid the rent while she did the decorating. It seemed like a reasonable trade-off at the time. Here's where things get real. I was assisting a friend, C, with his dating profile. The guy has been alone for far too long, and since he has only recently moved to town and is so shy, I felt compelled to assist him in some manner. Dive into Sean. He has the looks and money but lacks the riz. So, in addition to teaching him how to approach a lady, I was guiding him through the basics of a dating app and creating his profile, because God knows I used to brag about how excellent I was at attracting girls on dating apps. So here we were, looking for suitable matches, right? We're scrolling, swiping, doing our thing, and then there's Jade. My girl on the dating app is dead serious. I was stunned. My thoughts raced as I tried to grasp what I was witnessing. At first, I assumed it was a malfunction or a catfish using her photos. It had to be because it was the same profile pic she used on Instagram, with the same bio she joked about when we first met. I could not believe it. I assumed I was in a horrible movie or something. All those late-night discussions, jokes, and plans. Were they all going to waste? My heart sank. I looked across at Sean, and he was just as perplexed as I was, trying to console me, but his words barely registered. At first, he said the photo might have been old, that she had this profile before we met and never deleted it. Happens, right? But deep down, I knew this wasn't the case. That profile was active. We were just talking minutes ago, buddy. My girl of 2 years, the one I was anticipating a future with, was out here swiping right and left, like she was single, as if I didn't even exist. Have you ever had your entire body freeze up as if your mind was moving at 1,000 miles per minute, but your limbs were dead? That's how it felt. In hindsight, it took me a week to digest everything. Time didn't seem genuine at this moment. But back to that day, Sean tried to judge my mood by asking questions like, "You all right, man? Do you need anything?" But I couldn't answer. Despite my best efforts, no words came out. My throat was dry and my chest tightened. All I knew was that I needed to determine whether this was actually happening or if I was overreacting. So, after a few days of sitting and thinking about it, I devised a strategy. Sean agreed to assist me in getting information about Jade. Maybe that was a catfishing issue, right? So we finished Sean's profile, buffed it up to make him more desirable, and he swiped right on hers. We waited, and guess what? There was an effing match. A match. My girl, the one I pay rent for, shares a bed with and is considering marrying, is casually matched with my boy as if it were nothing. So, how could she not recognize him? Hell, I've mentioned him to her several times. I had some photos with him in them. Either she didn't care and assumed we were too ignorant to figure it out, or she didn't recognize him. At that point, I wasn't sure if I was losing my mind or if she didn't care enough to conceal it. Anyway, I wasn't going to sit around in denial. I downloaded the program and obtained Sean's login information to manage the communication from my end. I needed to know how deep this went. I forced Sean to begin the conversation casually, using the standard, "Hey, just looking to make new friends" line. Nothing outrageous at the start, just to see how she'd react. Of course she did. We persuaded her to give recent photos that no catfish would ever have access to because they were not on the internet. Real, recent photos. My heart sank even further. This girl was dealing with all of this. How many accounts on other platforms has she had? How long has she been doing this since our meeting? But it did not end there. The conversation continued for several days, and she became flirtatious. Really flirtatious. The sort of flirtatious you get when you're trying to hook up, not simply casual conversation. Reading those graphic messages made me lose my mind. It was like witnessing my entire relationship burn down in real time. Sean was trying to hold back, but what about Jade? She was running full throttle. Aren't I enough for her? Is it something I did? Or is this simply a delight for her? Here she was, a grown lady, flirting with a boy younger than her and talking about meeting up as if it were just another day at work. Every notification was like a dagger to my heart, but I had to keep it together. I had to keep it low-key and make sure Jade didn't suspect a thing. I was sitting on a bombshell of betrayal, but I couldn't let her see it on my face or in how I acted around her. That's when the idea came to my mind. Screenshots of her chats would not suffice in the long term. I needed something substantial, something she couldn't refute or argue her way out of. I pushed Sean, telling him he needed to take it further and make it genuine. Good. I said, "Get her to sleep with you." When you realize I had already mentally let go of her, then you realize how easy that was to utter. I couldn't have imagined saying it about someone I was still deeply in love with. I know that seems heartless, but I needed evidence. Photos, videos. Heck, I even wanted him to get her to agree to a tape. That was the plan, but it was more complex than I expected. The first meeting went smoothly. They had a terrific time, but when it came time to close the deal, Jade wouldn't budge. She didn't want to return to his apartment or a motel, and bringing him to our place was out of the question. She would never risk that. She wasn't stupid, at least not yet. So I had to return to the drawing board and reconsider the entire strategy. But I wasn't going to give up. We began preparing a second meetup, and this time we upped the ante. I told Sean to make himself appear more important than before. We doctored specific images to make it appear that he had more money than he did. My son couldn't justify all that with his paycheck. He's still young and just getting started. But that is what family connections are for. Everything is a ruse. But Jade appears to be in love with money. On my end, I did my part. I cut her off financially and gave her an excuse for my salary not coming in. Many of the relationship's benefits faded, and I even stopped expressing her affection. I wanted to push her farther into the arms of destruction. I knew the less I gave her, the more desperate she grew and the more probable she'd fall for Sean's phony baller persona. Surprisingly, it worked. The second meeting was it. She accepted the bait, hook, line, and sinker. They went out again, and this time she was really committed. She consented to everything, even returning to his apartment and becoming intimate. Not the tape, but nudes and a short video of the two of them in bed, which he covertly recorded. Sean got her to do everything. It was the evidence I needed, graphic photos and videos, proof she couldn't get out of. This wasn't simply a dating app conversation anymore. This was her physically betraying me, captured in 4K. I now have everything, including the design for my revenge in my head, and believe me, I am ready to act. But first, I'd like to hear from all of you. Maybe I'm being too emotional and not thinking about this logically. In any case, I'd like to listen to your thoughts before making my next move because there's no turning back once I start. My reaction. I get it, OP. The need for vengeance is completely reasonable after being caught off guard. The idea is to expose her behavior while avoiding making herself look bad. It can be rewarding to show her the repercussions of her decisions, especially after everything you've invested in the relationship. Own your story and show her that she messed with the wrong person. The op replied, "You won't believe how this went down. Was I petty? Yes, absolutely. Was I evil? I'd have liked less. Did she get what she deserved? You bet. Let me walk you through it step by step because this was crazy. Okay, the first thing I did was cease paying rent. That bill was ignored entirely. Now, before you say, "Bro, how are you going to stop paying rent and not get caught?" Here's the good news. The paperwork was in her name, not mine. Jade chose the place herself, enthused about decorating and making it her Pinterest fantasy while I handled the rent. The moment I discovered she was cheating, I knew it was time to play my cards. I approached the landlord and told him the same sob story I had told her to push her into Sean's arms. I told him I was experiencing significant financial difficulties, some drama about layoffs at work, whatever sounded credible. The landlord was so compassionate that he gave me a 3-month grace period on rent. So why not? I had never had a late payment, which saved me a lot of money. I also got her to pay all the other expenses because I was in a tight spot and promised to repay her as soon as I straightened things. When she started complaining about how unfair everything was, I even forced her to seek assistance from her family members. She finally consented. Nah, she'd feel it once I left. She was suspicious, bro. I bet she knew. But perhaps she was so interested in Sean that she wasn't ready to connect the dots. Sean definitely got a good vibe from her at that time. I nearly made it a point to have fun whenever possible. Cheating was legal in our relationship at the time. I played the long game like a pro. I gave it 3 months, long enough for things to pile up nice and high. On a random Tuesday afternoon while Jade was at work, probably browsing through more mails on a dating app, I packed up everything I owned. I got a truck and made sure everyone saw it. I didn't even leave one sock behind. Do you know how meticulous you must be to not leave a single sock? That is dedication. I put the keys on the counter and scribbled a brief note about how she was finished and that I was leaving. To top it all off, I notified the landlord of the problem. He was going to slap Jade with the overdue rent notice soon. I can only imagine her look when she arrived home and discovered the apartment was empty, or when she received the call from the landlord. It must have been awful. I wish I could have seen everything. That same day, while Jade dealt with our relationship troubles and the landlord situation, I did what I knew best. You remember how we were dating for 3 years, right? Long enough that her family included me in their group chat, and let me tell you, they were all about me. They assumed I was responsible for putting a ring on Jade and giving them a bunch of young grandkids. Well, spoiler alert, that ring never came. I had to let them know. I blurred Sean's face in those photos. I had to protect my boy, but I shared them with her entire family group chat. I did not hold back. I said, "Hey, I just thought you should know what Jade's been up to while I was busy being a faithful, loving boyfriend." Her mother, father, siblings, everyone was in that chat, and they were not prepared for that information. Jade must have been caught off guard. I mean, her family adored me. They had no idea their little angel was swiping on males as if it were her part-time job. With that, I departed the group and blocked everyone, except Jade, who I wasn't done with yet. Then I called my parents to do the same in case these individuals attempted to contact them to settle things. Oh, and if you thought I was done, hold on, there's more. I still had the video Sean had covertly taken. I didn't tell her, but I blackmailed her with it. I informed her that if she didn't return everything I'd given her, including that bright new iPhone, I'd ensure the entire world knew what she was about. And guess what? She complied quickly. I was not playing. Then I made Sean ghost on her too. That iPhone was in my name and remained on my account so I could access a few things, including her voicemail. You understand where this is headed, right? I went to the settings, altered her access code, and left her a small gift. This is her latest voicemail greeting. Hey, this is Jade. I can't come to the phone right now because I'm too busy sleeping with guys I met on a dating app and cheating on my boyfriend. It's been fun. Lastly, because I believe some of you may think I went too far, I say, hell yes, I did. Perhaps when you're in my shoes, you'll understand. I spent years trying to make this girl happy and doing everything I could to create something meaningful, and she was out here playing me like a fool. So, maybe it was petty or excessive, but you know what? It felt really amazing. Sometimes you must reclaim your authority, even if it means getting a little messy. I wish I could have seen her expression as she realized what was happening. She must have freaked out. Within hours, she was blowing up my phone, SMS, and direct messages on various social media networks, attempting to persuade me to change it. But I wouldn't budge. That was my cue to block her as well as unfollow. It didn't take her long to figure out how to take everything down, but the harm had been done. Everyone who called her that week was surprised, and I hope all the guys she was meeting on the side heard it. I suppose she had some explaining to do. How did Jade react? I do not know. In the brief time she spoke with me before I blocked her, she sounded distressed as if she was in tears. She also shouted numerous slurs at me, with no apologies on her part. But I was okay with that. I'd done enough. She made her bed and would lie in it, preferably with the overdue rent notice tucked beneath her pillow. So that's the update. I am officially free of Jade. She is out here attempting to put her life back together without my support. Meanwhile, I'm relaxing, enjoying life, and sipping on some sweet retribution. Lesson learned: everyone should always believe their instincts, and if someone is out here toying with them, don't simply sit back and take it. Flip the script, flip the tables, use whatever metaphor works for you. Believe me, it feels better than any closure conversation could. My reaction: friends sending those texts to her was a brave gesture. You raised the emotional stakes to 11, and I'm here for it. Was that a voicemail? Absolute brilliant. Sure, some may call it petty, but recovering your power makes perfect sense after the betrayal you endured. You have put in the time and effort and deserve to show her the repercussions of her behavior. Enjoy your newfound independence, be strong, and live your best life. What would you have done? Please share your ideas in the comments below. That's all for today, people. Thank you for joining today's video. If you loved it, please subscribe to receive more similar material. See you next time.